Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician, and this is Holomancer.
Also welcome the daring reporter Dora.
We are infinitely grateful that we have another opportunity to see you all again.
Today we'll be talking about a big balance patch for traditional formats. Using our utility ratio algorithm, we will quantify the change in cards' power.
In this video, you will learn how changing a few words in the card description can change the nominal value by 10 times.
Guys, could you tell us very briefly about your algorithm?
Dora, nothing has changed. Our approach is based on the core rules of Hearthstone. We divided each card into different components, and determined the nominal value for each of them according to the classic patterns.
In classic Hearthstone, most of the cards had a stable value that was fairly easy to determine. Variable value has become a feature of modern cards, which means that in order to receive the effect in full volume, players are forced to comply with certain conditions. For this reason, we define a minimum value that represents a scenario of unsuccessful or incomplete implementation of the effect and a maximum value that represents scenarios of a complete implementation of the effect. The utility ratio is a metric based on the ratio of a card's average nominal value to its actual mana cost. In other words, the utility ratio allows us to determine numerically how many times the card is more powerful than the basic standards of the game. Other than that, it's a great way to identify power creep.
Dear friends, you can learn more about this method and the constant patterns of Hearthstone in a special video. If you haven't seen it yet, don't miss it. Guys, as far as I remember, the basic standard is 1. Indicators that are greater than this value have power creep signs. Are there still cards in Hearthstone that follow the classic patterns?
Dora, you won't believe it, but yes. Several cards that received the buff were almost in line with the classic rules of the game.
We hope that you are familiar with the nuances of our method, so we will comment only on those cards, the testing process of which has some peculiarities.
But before you guys get started, I want to make an announcement. In the previous video we discussed signature packs. Unfortunately, we couldn't figure out Blizzard's logic. Golden packs from Festival of Legends are not signature, despite the fact that they contain signature cards and use a bronze color in the design. Blizzard, for reasons unknown to us, believes that these are ordinary golden packs, which means they do not contain a guaranteed signature card. In other words, the only difference between signature and golden packs is the presence of only one additional guaranteed card, and for this, developers use a separate naming. This is a very strange logic, given that the vast majority of golden packs from previous expansions do not have signature cards at all, and therefore have significantly less value. We definitely underestimated the approach of the Hearthstone team, for which we apologize.
Let's finally move on to the test result.
MC Blingtron deserves special attention. The card has an extremely unstable effect that depends on many factors. First, if the enemy is armed, you can destroy his weapon. Secondly, the card has an extremely low minimum value, because in the worst circumstances, the opponent will not allow you to use the effect's advantages. In the best of circumstances, you can use Astalar, the Flamebringer as a combo, which will allow you to deal an additional 14 points of damage to the enemy, of course, in the absence of other creatures on the board. In this case, your maximum nominal value will be 23 mana crystals. But the complexity of getting this result will be incredibly difficult. So in most matches your utility ratio will be well below 3. A potentially very strong effect needs synergies that can be implemented in a slightly simpler way.
Record Scratcher and Jazz Bass are twins. Both can give you up to 10 extra mana crystals in the very long run, but Record Scratcher is more flexible. This fact makes it a little easier to implement maximum value. The buff made them stronger by 13%.
The effect of Haldaron Brightwing evolves your spells, making them relatively powerful by 1 mana. This gives you the ability to cast more powerful spells at a reduced cost. Your maximum value will depend on the number of spells cast and will be different in every match. Changing the description of the card will allow you to get much more value. In these calculations, we assume a cast of 7 spells to determine the maximum benefits.
In its original form, Infinitize the Maxitude had a perfectly balanced effect that almost lived up to classic game standards. After the buff, the card became a kind of copy of Primordial Glyph, which increased its usefulness by 84%. The spell has an unusual additional component that allows you to generate resources on each turn. Despite this, the current utility factor is in line with modern gaming standards.
Thorobalar has received an infinite resurrection. After casting each subsequent fire spell, you have the opportunity to receive an additional benefit in the form of the resurrection of Thorobalar. Your maximum value will depend on the number of resurrections throughout the game. In these calculations, we assume the resurrection of the minion 5 times.
Twig of the World Tree deserves a closer look. Initially, using traditional methods, your benefit could be 14 mana crystals in the very long run, in case you manage to activate the weapon's death rattle on turn 8. This effect doesn't look broken if you don't find an option to activate the effect sooner. After the release of Wildheart Guff, the mana limit was doubled, which means that the effect of Twig of the World Tree allowed the player to get an additional 10 mana crystals for more turns. In addition, players have found a way to break weapons much earlier. All these factors led to the fact that in the long run the maximum benefit could be more than 90 mana crystals. But the most important is the fact that the difficulty level of getting the maximum value was relatively easy. Thus, in most games, your value was close to the maximum result. This combination has become one of the most broken in the game. So how does changing the card description affect the utility ratio?
the nerf reduced the potential usefulness of the card by almost 10 times. Now the enemy can destroy your weapon and leave you without any benefit at all. On the 8th turn, you can get only 8 additional mana crystals without additional benefits on the next turn. If you have an increased mana limit, your maximum benefit will be 20 mana crystals at best.
The Festival of Legends is a very controversial expansion. Most of the new cards have a lower power level, which has prevented the new cards from taking control of the metagame enough. At the same time, this fact gave us hope for a decrease in the level of power creep. In addition, the developers abandoned the traditional big patch with nerfs, preferring to use buffs of weak cards. This is a new strategy for Hearthstone and we'll be interested to see the results of this approach. According to our algorithm, the Mage and the Warrior received the most significant improvements.
Dear friends, do you think these changes are enough for these two classes to become competitive again? What do you think about the change in approach to Hearthstone balance? Are you satisfied with these changes in general? Share your opinions in the comments and join the polls on our community tab.
Finally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors. Dear friends, your support is invaluable. Many thanks to each of you.
We also want to welcome new subscribers to our Mathematician Squad. Unfortunately, for technical reasons, we only see nicknames of public subscribers who did not hide the subscription section on their channel, but we are grateful to everyone for joining.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.